I thought Natalie and I had the perfect relationship after 3 wonderful years together. She was smart, beautiful, and I was planning our future. Jake had been my best friend since college, the guy I trusted with everything, including my deepest secrets. His girlfriend Emma always seemed nice, though we were never particularly close. I never imagined my world would shatter in an instant when I overheard a conversation that was never meant for my ears. One ordinary Tuesday, while picking up Natalie's birthday gift, I accidentally discovered the ultimate betrayal that would change everything. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before I tell you how I turned the worst betrayal into the best decision of my life. Life in Boston had been good to me. At 32, I had established myself as a senior software engineer at a respected tech firm, lived in a comfortable apartment in Beacon Hill, and had built a circle of friends I truly valued. The crown jewel of my life was my relationship with Natalie Peterson, my girlfriend of 3 years. Natalie and I met at a company networking event. She worked in marketing at a partner firm, and we instantly connected over our shared love of indie films and weekend hiking trips. She had this infectious laugh that could light up a room, striking green eyes, and a way of making everyone feel important. I thought I had hit the relationship jackpot. We had talked about moving in together, and I had even started secretly browsing engagement rings. Jake Williams had been my best friend since our sophomore year in college. We bonded during an all-night study session for a particularly brutal computer science exam, and had been inseparable since. He stood by me when my dad died 2 years ago, helped me move apartments 3 times, and never missed our weekly basketball games followed by beers and wings. Jake worked as a financial analyst, was charismatic, athletic, and seemed to navigate life with an ease I sometimes envied. Emma Taylor entered our friend circle 2 years ago when she and Jake started dating. She was an art curator at a downtown gallery, intelligent and thoughtful with a quiet confidence. While we were friendly, our relationship was always through the connection with Jake and Natalie. She had a warm smile, was passionate about her work, and seemed to balance Jake's sometimes excessive energy perfectly. The 4 of us formed a tight-knit group. We had standing dinner dates every other Friday, took a skiing trip to Vermont last winter, and celebrated holidays together. I considered us lucky to have found partners who got along so well. In retrospect, maybe they got along too well. Looking back, there were signs I completely missed. Natalie had become increasingly protective of her phone, often stepping out of the room to take calls. She started working late more frequently, and canceled our plans last minute several times. I attributed it to a big marketing campaign she was leading, never suspecting there could be another explanation. Jake had also become somewhat distant. He would decline our basketball games without clear reasons, seemed distracted when we did hang out, and our conversations had become more superficial. Again, I chalked it up to work stress, and never pushed him on it. Natalie's 32nd birthday was approaching, and I wanted to make it special. I planned a surprise weekend getaway to a vineyard in the Berkshires, and splurged on a sapphire bracelet she had admired months ago. The jeweler called to let me know it was ready for pickup during my lunch break one Wednesday. After collecting the bracelet, which was even more beautiful than I remembered, I decided to head back to the office early. I took the back stairwell instead of the elevator, partly to get some steps in and partly to avoid running into colleagues who might ask about the small bag from the jewelry store. As I approached the 3rd floor, I heard Natalie's laugh echoing down the stairwell. This was odd since she worked in a different building downtown. I figured she must be surprising me with lunch, and smiled at the coincidence as I continued up the stairs. Through the glass panel of the door, I saw her sitting alone in a conference room back toward me on what appeared to be a video call. I was about to push the door open and surprise her when her words froze me in place. "He has absolutely no idea," Natalie was saying, laughing. "Jake and I have been meeting at the Marriott for months now. Alexander thinks I am working late. He is planning this big birthday surprise next weekend, but Jake and I already have our own plans for when he goes to Chicago the following week." My hand fell from the door handle as if it had suddenly become electrified. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I heard my girlfriend casually discussing her infidelity with my best friend. The jewelry box felt impossibly heavy in my pocket as I silently backed away unnoticed, my entire reality crumbling around me. I do not remember walking back to my car. The shock had overtaken my body, making my movements automatic, while my mind raced to process what I had just heard. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, unable to start the engine. The physical symptoms hit me hard: chest tightening, difficulty breathing, stomach churning with nausea. 3 years of memories with Natalie played through my mind like a corrupted film reel, now tainted by the knowledge of her betrayal. I managed to text my supervisor, claiming I had food poisoning and needed the rest of the day off. Then I just drove with no destination in mind, trying to outrun the thoughts that were now screaming in my head. Every red light became a fresh opportunity for another painful realization the weekend. Jake said he was visiting his parents but came back with an inexplicable tan. Natalie suddenly developing an interest in financial markets around the same time. Their inside jokes that I was never quite part of. My phone buzzed with a message from Natalie. Thinking pasta for dinner tonight. Should be home by 7. The casual normalcy of it felt like another stab to the chest. How many times had she texted me similarly innocent messages immediately after being with Jake? After 3 hours of aimless driving, I found myself at a park overlooking the harbor. The rational part of my brain had finally engaged, and I knew I needed to confirm what I had heard before confronting them. People mishear things, I told myself, knowing even as I thought it that there was no mistaking what Natalie had said. That evening I pretended nothing was wrong. I made pasta, smiled at Natalie's stories about her day, and excused myself early, claiming a headache. Once she was asleep, I began my investigation. Her phone was password protected, but I knew her laptop wasn't. While she showered the next morning, I checked her email and found hotel confirmations, messages arranging meetups, and flirtatious exchanges with Jake going back at least 7 months. I went through my own phone records and found numerous calls between them on days when both claimed to be working late. Credit card statements showed Jake making purchases at restaurants near Natalie's office on days when he told me he was having lunch with colleagues downtown. There were even a few photos buried in Natalie's cloud storage that removed any possible doubt. My initial plan was to confront them together, catch them in the act. I considered following Natalie after work or showing up at one of the hotels they frequented, but fate had other plans. 3 days after my discovery, still reeling and planning my confrontation, I stopped at a small coffee shop near my apartment. Lost in thought, I did not immediately notice Emma sitting alone in the corner until she called my name. "Alexander, are you okay? You look terrible," she said, genuine concern in her voice. I considered brushing her off with some excuse, but something in her expression stopped me. She looked tired with dark circles under her eyes, and there was a knowing sadness in her face that resonated with my own pain. "Can I sit down?" I asked. And when she nodded, I made a split-second decision to tell her everything. As I recounted what I had discovered, I watched her face carefully. There was no shock, no disbelief, just a slow nodding and the sheen of tears in her eyes. I suspected something, she said quietly when I finished. "Jake has been distant, secretive. Last month I found a receipt for 2 movie tickets on a night he told me he was working late. When I asked him about it, he had this elaborate story about taking a client." Emma pulled out her phone and showed me text messages she had saved, hotel charges on their shared credit card, and inconsistencies in Jake's stories that mirrored what I had found with Natalie. We sat in that coffee shop for hours, comparing notes and timeline, filling in gaps in each other's knowledge. It was a strangely intimate experience, this shared betrayal creating an immediate bond between us. By the 3rd cup of coffee, our shock and sadness had evolved into something else: determination. "They think they are so clever," Emma said, a new hardness in her usually gentle voice. "Maybe it is time they learn they are not the only ones who can make plans." Together we devised a plan. We learned that Jake had made reservations at Natalie's favorite Italian restaurant for Friday night, telling Emma he would be at a work event. Natalie had told me she was having dinner with her college friend, who was visiting from New York. We decided this would be the perfect opportunity for our confrontation. That Friday evening, Jake and Natalie were already seated at their corner table when Emma and I walked in together. The moment they saw us, their faces drained of color. Jake half rose from his chair, mouth opening and closing without producing sound. Natalie knocked over her wineglass red liquid, spreading across the white tablecloth like blood. "Surprise," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Mind if we join you?" We sat down uninvited, and I placed a folder on the table containing printouts of their messages, receipts, and photos. Emma added her own evidence to the pile. "How could you?" she asked, her voice breaking slightly. It was the only moment of weakness either of us showed. Their denials were brief and unconvincing, quickly giving way to anger. "You went through my private messages," Natalie hissed, as if her violation of privacy was somehow comparable to her betrayal. Jake tried another approach. "Look, man, it just happened. We never meant to hurt you guys." 7 months of secret meetings do not just happen," I replied coldly. "Neither do the lies, the elaborate cover stories, or the laughing about how clueless we were." The confrontation lasted 20 excruciating minutes. They cycled through denial, anger, blame shifting, and finally pathetic attempts at justification. The restaurant had gone quiet around us, other patrons pretending not to listen while obviously riveted by the drama unfolding. When they ran out of excuses, Emma stood up. "We are done here," she said with quiet dignity. "Do not call us. Do not try to explain further. You two deserve each other." As we walked out together, leaving Jake and Natalie stunned in the restaurant, I felt a curious mix of devastation and liberation. The worst had happened, the confrontation was over, and somehow I was still standing. The weeks following our confrontation at the restaurant were some of the darkest of my life. I took a week off work, unable to focus on code while my personal life was in shambles. I moved through my apartment like a ghost, sleeping on the couch because the bed held too many memories. Food lost its taste, and simple tasks like showering required enormous effort. Natalie moved out while I was at work, taking her belongings and leaving her key on the kitchen counter without a note. Jake tried calling me repeatedly until I blocked his number. Then he switched to emails with increasingly desperate subject lines. "Please, let me explain. It was a mistake. I need my friend back." What surprised me was the development of my friendship with Emma. We started meeting for coffee every few days, comparing notes on our emotional states and coping mechanisms. Unlike well-meaning friends who offered platitudes like "you will find someone better," or "time heals all wounds," Emma truly understood the unique pain of this double betrayal. "I keep having these dreams, where Jake and I are happy again," she confessed one rainy afternoon. "Then I wake up and have to relive the whole thing, remembering all over again." I nodded, knowing exactly what she meant. Yesterday, I caught myself picking up Natalie's favorite cookies at the store. 3 years of habits are hard to break. Through mutual friends, we learned that Jake and Natalie had made their relationship public, spinning a narrative where they had fallen in love and tried to end things with us before we discovered them. Some friends believed their version, creating divides in our social circle. Others stood firmly with Emma, and me, disgusted by the betrayal. As weeks turned into months, something unexpected began to happen. My coffee meetings with Emma became the bright spots in otherwise difficult days. I found myself looking forward to her insights, her quiet humor, and the way she could find meaning in our shared experience. She was thoughtful in ways I had never noticed before, bringing me a book that had helped her process grief after her father died, remembering how I had mentioned my own father's passing. 4 months after the confrontation, Emma suggested we watch a new documentary series about architecture, knowing my interest in design. It was the first time we had spent time together outside a coffee shop or restaurant, sitting on her couch, sharing takeout, and conversation that gradually shifted away from our exes to our own interests and dreams. I felt a flicker of something I had not experienced in months: genuine happiness. The evening ended with an unexpected moment of tension, when our hands brushed, reaching for the remote. Our eyes met, and for a second I thought she might lean in. Instead, she pulled back slightly, a question in her eyes. "Is this weird?" she asked softly. "Us hanging out like this?" "Maybe," I admitted. "But it also feels right somehow." We talked honestly that night about the complexity of our situation. Were we just trauma bonded? Was any attraction between us real, or just a reaction to our shared experience? We agreed to maintain our friendship, but move carefully, both too emotionally raw to risk another relationship implosion. The turning point came during a weekend hiking trip to the White Mountains with a group of mutual friends. Watching Emma photograph a sunset from a rocky outcrop, her face lit with genuine joy for the first time since I had known her, I was struck by the realization that my feelings had evolved far beyond friendship or shared trauma. This was not about Jake or Natalie anymore. This was about Emma herself, her strength, her kindness, her resilience. That evening, as our friends gathered around the campfire, Emma and I wandered a little distance away to watch the stars emerge. "I think I am falling in love with you," I said quietly, the words surprising, even me with their certainty. "And it has nothing to do with them. It is just you who you are." In the dim light, I could see tears in her eyes. "I have been feeling the same way," she whispered. But I was so afraid it was not real, that we were just clinging to each other because of what happened. "How do we know if it is real?" I asked. She considered this for a moment. "Maybe we do not with absolute certainty. But I do know that when I am with you, I am not thinking about Jake or the betrayal. I am just thinking about you, about us." We decided to give ourselves permission to explore these feelings, but promised complete honesty with each other and agreed to take things slowly. Our first official date was to an art exhibition featuring Emma's favorite photographer. Our first kiss happened on her doorstep afterward, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. News of our relationship reached Jake and Natalie eventually. Their reactions were predictably self-centered accusations that we were only together for revenge, that we had secretly wanted each other all along. These accusations might have bothered us more if we had not been so focused on building something genuine between us. While our personal lives were blossoming, our professional lives took unexpected turns as well. A side project I had been developing in my spare time caught the attention of a venture capital firm, resulting in seed funding to launch my own startup. Emma's curatorial work was selected for an international touring exhibition, bringing her significant professional recognition. Meanwhile, Jake's firm announced downsizing, and he found himself unemployed for the first time in his career. Natalie was passed over for a major promotion. She had been expecting her work performance, apparently suffering amid the drama of our situation. I would be lying if I said we did not feel a certain satisfaction in these developments. There is truth to the saying that living well is the best revenge, but our focus remained on building our lives rather than celebrating their setbacks. 1 year after our first date, I asked Emma to marry me during a return trip to the White Mountains, where we had first acknowledged our feelings. Her yes was immediate and joyful, cementing what we both already knew. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the greatest blessings. Emma and I have been living together for a year now in a brownstone apartment near the harbor. The space is filled with her artwork, and my tech gadgets, a perfect blend of our personalities. Photos of our travels cover one-wall weekend trips to New York, a vacation to California wine country, hiking adventures in national parks. We are building a life full of experiences neither of us had with our previous partners. Jake and Natalie lasted another 3 months after we began dating officially. According to mutual friends, their relationship deteriorated once the excitement of secrecy was gone. They fought constantly, each blaming the other for the mess they had created. The ultimate breakup apparently happened after Natalie discovered Jake texting with another woman from his new workplace. Jake reached out to me 6 months ago through a mutual friend asking if we could meet. Against Emma's better judgment, I agreed to coffee. He looked terrible, having lost weight and aged years in the process. He apologized profusely, speaking about therapy and realizing the depth of his character flaws. But beneath the apology, I sensed another motivation. His new business venture was struggling, and he was subtly probing to see if I might be willing to invest or offer connections. I listened politely, wished him well in his recovery process, paid for the coffee, and walked away with no intention of maintaining contact. Some betrayals cannot be repaired with apologies, no matter how sincere they might be. Natalie took a different approach. She began appearing at places she knew Emma frequented, her favorite lunch spot, the gallery where she occasionally still consulted. It was never direct confrontation, just ensuring her presence was felt a reminder of the past. The behavior stopped after Emma calmly but firmly told her that any further encounters would result in a restraining order. The experience changed us both in fundamental ways. I became more observant of relationship dynamics, more appreciative of straightforward communication. The red flags I missed with Natalie now seem blindingly obvious when I look back: the secrecy, the inconsistencies, the gradual emotional distance. I have learned to trust my instincts rather than making excuses for behavior that does not feel right. Emma transformed from someone who feared confrontation to a woman who stands firmly in her truth. She talks openly about her experience in a support group for people who have been betrayed by partners, helping others navigate the complex emotions involved. Her art has taken on new dimensions, exploring themes of broken and reformed connections. Our relationship is built on a foundation of radical honesty. We have seen the worst that deception can do, and have no interest in bringing that energy into our lives together. We talk through conflicts immediately, express needs clearly, and never go to bed angry. Last month we ran into Trevor, a friend who had initially sided with Jake after the breakup. Over drinks, he told us what had become of our exes. Jake had moved back to his hometown in Ohio, taking a job well below his qualifications after failing to find comparable work in Boston. Natalie had been let go from her marketing firm after losing several key clients, and was now working freelance with limited success. They really lost everything, Trevor observed. Meanwhile, you two are thriving. It is like karma worked overtime. While there is some satisfaction in knowing that their betrayal ultimately cost them far more than it cost us, I find that I think of them less and less as time passes. The best revenge was never about their downfall, but about our happiness. Emma and I are planning a small wedding next spring on the coast of Maine. We are focusing on experiences rather than material things, creating a celebration that reflects the joy we have found together rather than societal expectations. Last week I had a strange experience. Stopping for gas late at night, I ran into Jake at the convenience store. He looked startled to see me, then embarrassed. I noticed the economy vodka in his hand, his rumpled clothes, the defeat in his posture. For a moment, I felt a flicker of our old friendship, the urge to ask how he was doing, to offer some word of support. Instead, I simply nodded in acknowledgement and continued with my purchase. Some chapters are better left closed. As I drove home to Emma, I realized I felt no anger anymore, no desire for further retribution, just a profound gratitude that his betrayal had ultimately led me to where I was meant to be all along. The most important lesson I learned through this experience is that betrayal does not have to define you. It can destroy what you thought you had, but in doing so, it clears space for something better to take root. Had Natalie and Jake not betrayed us, Emma and I might never have found our way to each other. Their selfish actions inadvertently gave us the greatest gift, a chance at authentic love built on mutual respect and honesty. So if you are watching this and dealing with betrayal of your own, know that the pain eventually subsides. The future waiting on the other side might be better than anything you can imagine from where you stand now. Trust your instincts, honor your worth, and never settle for relationships that require you to ignore red flags. Have you ever experienced betrayal that ultimately led to something better? Share your story in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming life's challenges. And if you know someone struggling with betrayal or heartbreak right now, share this with them as a reminder that better days lie ahead. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that sometimes losing what you thought you wanted leads you straight to what you truly need.